Hey guys, so I'm back and it's been a very volatile couple of weeks. Sort of did my pre-recorded one last week, didn't put the figure, and I've made some fairly big changes to the overall portfolio. I have sold a little bit of Bitcoin, as I sort of mentioned, the sort of a tax harvesting operation, and I was going to put it either into Ethereum or into the stock side, and I ended up putting it into the stock side. So overall, the portfolio is quite a bit up, but if I remove the 15,500 that I put in, I'm actually down 3,000, sort of just over 1% from 2 weeks ago. So I'm sort of measuring from before I went on holiday. But yeah, it's been very sort of up and down, sort of various stocks in the invest side, sort of Stellantis, dropping a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Broadcom sort of saw a bit of a spike and then a drop right at the end of the week. Portfolio sort of was doing okay towards the end of the week, and then last night, pretty much on the US, we had sort of a bit of bank uncertainty, which I'll come to in a minute, and sort of everything took a bit of a drop. So yeah, Broadcom came back down again. Taiwan Semiconductor come down, and yeah, some of the sort of UK stuff was already shut, so maybe a bit more sort of downside on Monday. But yeah, we'll have to see. So let's take a look at some news. So I didn't cover this last week. Riot Platforms operational update for March. It's a little bit old now, but yeah, let's have a look. So Bitcoin produced 425, not great, but they are sort of moving towards their upgrades. So 418 in February, sort of way down from last year, March, 695. Obviously, they've got issues with some of their rigs and the difficulty has increased. So yeah, they're down to 425. They do say operating hash rate is 8.6 exahash out of 12.4. So they've sort of said that they were going to include that. They've always been sort of saying if we've got 12.4, we should be using 12.4, but it's fair to say, if it's not all working, you might as well show how much Bitcoin you're producing for what is actually working. Admittedly, they did have 7.6 in March last year, so it is up from that. Just difficulty increase, I guess. And yeah, they're up to 112,000 miners. Bitcoin held, though, is 8,490, so they're not selling, well, they're not selling anything. They didn't sell anything last month either. So 8,490 is a very nice sum. We're looking at sort of, even at today's dropped prices, 568 million, and I think they've said they got 675 million in cash. So very nice. So their update on the Corsicana facility, very large site as you can see. They don't give them fancy names, it's just building A1. Is expected to commence operations mid-April, so coming up in the next few days, presumably, and will add an anticipated 3.7 exahash to their mining hash rate, which I guess people are still sort of not picking up on. They'll see it in the next updates. Obviously, you're going to get half of April being this increased hash rate, so we'll need to see sort of May, June, and July updates to sort of see the full effect. And yeah, development of the next 3 buildings is in process, completion of which will bring 13 exahash online this year. They've already received the majority of the miners for A2 and expect the balance to be received during April. So they're expecting 31 exahash by the end of 2024. Which I don't think people are sort of really factoring in. They're sort of, I've compared them to Cleanspark, and sort of Cleanspark are expected to be at sort of potentially 30, potentially mid 30s later this year. They don't have the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They don't have anywhere near the cash on the balance sheet, and they're still at a higher market cap. So I do still see Riot as potentially slightly better value, although I'm not selling my Cleanspark at the moment to pile into Riot. And they do give a bit of a balance sheet update at the end. As I say, 685 million in cash on hand. That seems to be coming from dilution. So in my spreadsheet, I had, I think, 260 million shares outstanding. And they're saying at the end of March 2024, they're already at 268 million. So there's a little bit more dilution going on than I was expecting. They are saying that this dilution is to get them beyond 41 exahash, which they say they should be at the end of next year. That is for sort of going from 41 to 100, which obviously is a very, very large increase. But yeah, the 268 million is more than I was expecting, so I have sort of been updating my spreadsheet and probably having to progress this more towards sort of 275 to 300, depending on sort of how much they get for dilution throughout the year, depending on the share price. So yeah, that was a bit of a knock, but I think 685 million in cash and 8,490 Bitcoin, as they're saying, it's well closer to 1.2 billion dollars, with them being 2.5 billion in market cap now. I do think that is very, very good value. So on the Cleanspark side, I guess they are looking a little bit more rosy. They've already got their hash rate sort of up and all working, as opposed to Riot. They are at 16 exahash, just over 16, with 17 exahash imminent, and they have updated that, which I will get to in a minute. But for March, 806 Bitcoin. That is a really decent total. And they've held pretty much all of that. They sold 3.37 Bitcoin out of 800, so they are now at 5,021, which is a decent number, to be fair. I've been sort of saying Riot have double Cleanspark's Bitcoin, and that is sort of quickly eroding as they mine a great deal. And they gave the update that Dalton, the acquisition, was nearing completion and due to take them to over 17 exahash, expected to be fully operational on or before April the 12th. This marks the first step of adding 3 exahash in the coming quarter to 20. And then on the 12th yesterday, they have confirmed that they've got to 17 exahash with this upgrade, and it's exceeded 17 exahash, and they've made an interesting alteration to their option. So they had a huge option to buy 100,000 S21 Bitmain S21 miners, and they have cleverly negotiated this, I guess. Took a bit of negotiating, but they have upgraded these to S21 Pros, Bitmain's sort of extra brand new machine, for the same price. So these are still going to be $16 per terahash. I guess, if it's an order in the future, they've agreed to upgrade these to S21 Pros from S21s, and this is now 23.4 exahash worth of machines, where it was I think 20, just under 20. Yeah, approximately 3.4 exahash more hash rate. So very nice for the same price. So they're 15 joules per terahash. 14% improvement over the S21, which is currently the most efficient miner available on the market at 17.5. So these sitting at 15 is very, very good. Obviously, them sort of buying the XP, the S19 XPs, sort of maybe took a little bit of their liquidity. Other sort of companies seem to have held off buying those, and maybe they can now buy S21 Pros. But yeah, I think, them buying sort of before and being currently at 17 exahash has just sort of helped things along. They're mining 800 Bitcoin a month. Obviously, the halving coming up in a week or so that will come down. But yeah, it's sort of different strategies for different companies, and I do like sort of a little bit more diversification now with Riot and Cleanspark. So not sure what caused the big downturn last night, but some people are citing sort of fears from bank earnings. I believe JP Morgan's came out yesterday before market open. So, yeah, they had all day to sort of dig through that. With those other banks, I haven't really seen. I don't really pay too much attention to bank earnings because they're sort of very volatile and they make a lot of predictions, especially Jamie Dimon, that sort of don't really come true always. He sort of said there was a tornado coming not so long ago, and it's sort of been nothing but up. So yeah, I'm not sort of paying too much attention to them, but they warned of an uncertain year ahead after mixed financial results during the first quarter, with stubbornly high inflation and geopolitical clashes everywhere, as they're saying. JP Morgan reported a modest 6% rise in profits and were sort of beating expectations. They did acquire the First Republic Bank that went bust. And he sort of said many economic indicators continue to be favourable. However, looking ahead, we remain alert to a number of significant uncertain forces. And yeah, I think, persistent inflationary pressures as well. I think people just sort of read a little bit too much into this. They've beat earnings, and they're just saying this year could be a little bit rough. But yeah, we'll have to see. So I saw yesterday as a bit of a buying opportunity. So just looking at the rest of the news for the week, there wasn't a lot on Monday or Tuesday. Wednesday, expect this is what the banks are citing, inflationary pressures, as investing.com still call it, better than expected because it's a higher number. That's not better than expected. Core CPI year on year did not fall. It was expected to fall ever so slightly, 0.1%, but it didn't. It was higher than expected on the month, same as last month, 0.4%. Obviously, annualized, over 4.8%. That's not good at all. It's not where Mr. Powell wants it to be. Still debate about, he's saying 2% annual inflation, but will he settle for more if 2% would mean sort of drastic measures and sort of harm to the economy? And headline was up quite a bit. It was expected to be up from 3.2 to 3.4, and it was up to 3.5, so not good at all. Another month of 0.4%. So yeah, people got a little bit spooked about that. Then Thursday you had the European Central Bank rate meeting. Obviously they kept it the same. I didn't really hear too much sort of talk from them that rattled anything. Jobless claims sort of pretty much as expected, continuing sort of rising slightly. Not a huge amount to see there. And then UK data, not particularly good, 0.2% monthly GDP data, not very good. And yeah, that was about it for the week. So not a huge amount, just everyone getting worried about the US inflation. So portfolio-wise, as I say, some fairly big changes. Obviously, Cleanspark has come down a fair bit with the Bitcoin drop and sort of various other reasons. People are unhappy with the market in general. Obviously, if the market sort of takes a bit of a drop, then or anything Bitcoin related will take a much larger drop, as expected. Gold and silver, though, doing pretty well, I would say. Coeur mining sort of up to 464. That again took an enormous hit. Gold and silver both rose quite a lot yesterday, and then sort of tanked back at the end of the day. Coeur mining went well above $5 briefly. Equinox sort of went to about 620, and sort of Fortuna nearly at the fives. But yeah, it sort of all fell back yesterday night. But the big deposit, so £15,500 from the Bitcoin sale, all went into Riot platforms, and I also sold the remainder of my Stag Industrial holding. Sort of just thinking that nothing wrong with Stag particularly, but I felt the drop in Riot platforms was more of a buy. So unfortunately, I never seem to time it particularly well. I sort of accept that. I bought the 15,500 of Riot platforms at about 9.95. It's now down to 9.10. So I did buy a little bit of, with the stag money, I did buy a little at 9.10. So average is still just over $10, but you know, we're in this for much more than $1 or $2. Anybody who's in Riot, I think, if you can take the volatility, you know, we're looking for sort of 30, 40, $50 maybe over the next couple of years. So yeah, I think we'll look back on it and wonder why I was sort of quibbling about $1. But it's good to sort of try and buy it at the best time you can. But yeah, so not a huge amount else going on there. I am, if we see more of a drop in the crypto, I think I am prepared to sell some more of the small REIT positions, potentially Tritax Eurobox, even though it's 40% down. You've got to think if there's better opportunities, then yeah, you know, accepting of taking a loss and moving into something potentially higher performing. Vici and American Tower, sort of similarly, really. They look fine, you know, nothing particularly wrong with them. Interest rates potentially coming down. I think they could do well, but yeah, it would end up with me being almost entirely gold, silver, and Bitcoin focused. But yeah, it's for the short term. Looking on the interactive brokers side, KGHM doing pretty well, 144.50. Copper sort of been continually rising up and up, and the silver side sort of comes into them as well. I think people at some point, maybe they are noticing the silver, but not as much as I think they should be. They're the second largest producer of silver in the world, and they do always just seem to move largely with the copper price, but hopefully at some point that will start to factor in a little bit more. And Pan American doing pretty well as well. Sort of hit $20 briefly. Has come back a little, but yeah, still in the red, unfortunately. But that will come because I haven't been averaging down on that at all. So yeah, decent total. This was sort of under 20,000 for a little while, not so long ago. So yeah, nice to see it at 26. And the invest side, Chinese tech sort of barely moving. Alibaba back down to 71 and Baidu under 100. So yeah, not too bothered about those. But yeah, the option side, I have been buying even more. Only got £500 cash left. Kur Mining is now the biggest position, even though I haven't bought any, just from sort of others being a little bit volatile. Equinox Gold, sort of really happy with, sort of at $6. I think my sort of January 2026 are looking pretty good with their new mine sort of coming on board in the next month. Cleanspark has sort of come back a little. That was about 12,000 or 11 or 12,000. So yeah, a small move in the stock brings the options right the way down. I have bought quite a lot of Himax Technologies. This sort of is a potentially throwing money into a black hole, although I have done that before. But yeah, Himax just seemed sort of a decent option to buy. I was sort of buying a little bit more before the Cleanspark and sort of crypto side come down, and sort of gold and silver were rocketing. Didn't really fancy buying either, to be honest, so I was just putting more into Himax. But Riot has come so far down, sort of down towards $9, that they were starting to look very, very cheap on the options. So, admittedly, not very long term. The sort of January 2026 ones were quite expensive. So I've bought a January 2025 little allocation, only £700, but yeah, five options. So they've got 9 months to run. Sort of hoping for a bit of a Bitcoin boost towards the end of the year after the halving, hoping that maybe it doesn't take quite until end of 2025. If we sort of get a decent run before then, I think Riot could do well with their new facilities coming online. You start getting the sort of July, August, September operational updates, and yeah, I'm hoping they could sort of really push, aside from just Bitcoin going up, their sort of hash rate going up and profitability sort of coming back to good times. So yeah, five Riot options, potentially some more money going in here. I'm sort of got a bit of cash on the sidelines, and I'm sort of debating whether to just add it to the ISA and maybe buy more Riot stock, or maybe add some more to the options side and sort of go a little bit more degen. Why not? So we'll see. Leave your thoughts in comments below then. Let me know how you guys are doing. If you sort of were buying into the red last night, and like and subscribe. See you soon.